Roll up and listen to Incense and Ashtrays with Dwann B. Music for your soul. Roll up and listen to Incense and Ashtrays with Dwann B. Music for your soul.
What's up, Negroes? Sorry for the long intro. Right when I went live, I got a phone call. Y'all know how that go. Right when I hit live, it was like, and I had to answer it. So we here in Cincinnati Ashtrays Live. We about to be talking some music today. Talking about how Atlanta killed R&B. That's the Cash App. Hit a nigga Cash App right now. Look. Right there. Hit that. We about to get going in 1 second. But before we get going, watch this commercial. And then we gonna get started.
Take one, and here comes the 2 to the 3 and 4.
Hold up. Celebrate our warriors and scholars. Black history on a t-shirt. Black people don't owe anybody anything but an ass whooping.
Yep.
Mothers of the movement, our scholars. Instead of wearing a sports jersey with someone else's name on your back, celebrate our leader's name on your chest.
Say it with your chest.
Get yours now at hotepish.com/shop. Free shipping on all orders over $75. Also, get your Black American music family tree at incenseandashtrays.com/shop. 400 years of music created here in North America exclusively by Black Americans on one piece of artwork.
Shit, I'm over here talking. I'm over here running my damn mouth, forgetting that this thing needs to get manually switch the screen. But we here. What's up, y'all? We about to talk about a message, a discussion that's a long way in the making. Long time coming. We gotta clean up our music. And so to clean up our music, we got to identify a lot of what's going on, where it went wrong, and how to fix it. That's how it is with anything. You want to fix a leak, you got to stop and find the source of the leak. So we about to talk about that. So I'm about to play my preaching music and light my incense, and we are going to get going. Where my lighter at? Where'd my lighter go? I thought I had my incense and ashtrays lighter. We about to talk about this. So, y'all see the title, How Atlanta Killed R&B. A lot of y'all wonder, how did that happen? I'm from Atlanta. Are you going to talk bad about my city? Yeah. And it's all in love. Atlanta has a very rich musical tradition, an extremely rich musical tradition. You know, Ray Charles got a lot of this, his early days was in clubs in Atlanta, Gladys Knight, the funk group Brick. It's a lot of good music, early Atlanta. We're talking about the early years of LaFace, Tony Braxton. We talking about some good ass R&B, Escape. But as the 90s progressed, the R&B out of Atlanta got cheaper, and cheesier. So what we gonna do today is we're gonna have a 2-part show, all right? I'm not only gonna talk here on YouTube. After this is over, we're going over to Mixcloud and we're gonna play some musical examples. How about that? So it's not just me running my mouth and giving you my opinions. We also gonna play some music so I can back what I'm saying sonically so you guys can hear it. It's one thing to say it and talk about it. And if on YouTube, if they allow me to play music on YouTube, of course I would do the musical examples here. It'll be 10 times easier if I were allowed to play music on YouTube, but I can't. So you're going to have to follow me over to Mixcloud for the musical side breakdown, all right? But again, welcome chat room. Welcome chat room. And as I get started again, don't be afraid to hit the Cash App. Don't be afraid. Don't be. Let me tilt this camera down some. Don't be afraid. So I want to make sure. Oh yeah, and you got to come to the comedy show in Dallas. That's coming up. Dallas, you're next. Me live in Dallas, May 26th. I said 26th. May 26th. I'll be live in Dallas. Kamira White, Mike Murphy, Larry Goodwell, and Slink Johnson, Black Jesus. Slink Johnson's a crusty, ashy motherfucker right there, ain't he? I love Slink, but there's not a lotion ever made on earth that can end his ashiness. So yeah, we here. We talking about. Let me tilt that back up. Tilt my mic on the goddamn camera. So, how Atlanta killed R&B. Let's break this down. This isn't personal to anybody. If you're from Atlanta, you shouldn't feel offended. Look, I'm from LA. I gotta listen to you niggas talk about how gangster music killed off rap every goddamn day. So I'm telling you right now, if you in the chat room and you sensitive, I'm not even gonna look for a fuck to find to give about your feelings. But if you hear and you want to listen to an opinion and get some information, and we gonna do that. We gonna do that. All right. Look, everywhere our music has been, there's been positives and there's been negatives. You know. So as I get into it, see, R&B is a sound that requires a lot. When R&B is done right, and I'll explain this on the music side, you'll listen to it sonically. For R&B to be done at its best, R&B needs live instrumentation. What is R&B? Let's break it down. Rhythm and blues. That's what R&B is. Rhythm. What's the rhythm? The rhythms that come from the sounds of Fats Waller and his stride piano playing style of the 1930s, which evolved into the early bluesy rhythms of Sister Rosetta Tharpe, the late 30s and into the 40s, and which evolved into what's now known as R&B in the 50s. It's the rhythms, it's the jazz rhythms, this Duke Ellington orchestration combined with the blues of Muddy Waters, the blues of Robert Johnson, P.D. Wheatstraw. It's the rhythms of jazz and the lyrics of blues. That's where you get rhythm and blues, okay? A sound that helped get solidified out of Georgia by a man named Ray Charles. So again, I'm not here to shit on Georgia and shit on Atlanta. We're going to talk about where it was good and where it went bad. You know, this is an educational program today, all right? This is educational, purely educational. I'm not here to argue with you. And if this hurts your feelings, let me say it one more time. All right? Don't give a fuck. So, Ray Charles in the late 50s and into the 60s really helped bring the sounds of jazz and blues together. But even before you get to Ray Charles, R&B, and you can get this in a book by, what's that man's name? Nelson George. It's called The Death of R&B. It was written like in 1988. You see, when you get into the 50s, R&B, before it even got to the sound of Ray Charles, is a sound that was solidified here in Los Angeles, California. Your early record labels that pushed R&B, the late 40s and into the 50s, were founded here in LA. And for R&B, again, to be done right, it needs that rhythm, the live instrumentation, and it needs the blues, the emotion and the feeling and the that grit. And what we see from the 40s through the 50s through the 60s through the 70s, from the 40s to the 70s, what we see is an evolution in the sound. And no matter where the sound goes, it has this common bond. Live instrumentation with feeling in the music. Blues. Live instrumentation with the blues, the feeling. So when our sound is in LA, you get that. No, it didn't come from Louisiana. God damn, you niggas always want to just claim shit. This is Black American music, all right? All of our music has a polygenesis. Stop all that tribalism shit. You came from New York, yeah? LA is what helped grow R&B because LA is one of the early cities that invested in R&B, because when it came to the sound was going around the country in different places, Georgia, in New York, in Chicago especially, Memphis. But LA was one of the early cities that put money behind it to put the records out. And New York and Chicago followed suit. It's really a cross between the LA record industry and the Chicago record industry that really gave R&B its footing. LA and Chicago. LA and Chicago. Those were the main places that were putting the money behind R&B. Outside of that, all of the other record labels throughout the rest of the country were still doing blues and jazz. They weren't fucking with R&B. Same story like with hip hop. Just like when hip hop came along in the 80s, wasn't Motown, none of those established companies was fucking with hip hop. New York funded hip hop. LA funded hip hop. You always got to give credit to the people who put money behind it. So a lot of you niggas like running your mouth. Well, it started here. Okay, well, who put the money up? Because without the money getting put up, don't none of us hear this shit. It wasn't no internet in the 1940s and 50s. Motherfuckers had to actually pay for studio time and pay for that shit to get put on wax records. People had to go down to the store and buy that shit. Somebody had to distribute that shit. So without the epicenters of places that invested money in it, shut the fuck up. So when it comes to the sound of R&B, a lot of that was in your Chicago and LA markets that really got it where it got a footing. And then R&B gets really big in Detroit and through Motown. But Chicago, you had VJ Records. You know, VJ Records is a black-owned record label, and they actually put out the Beatles before anyone else. Twist and Shout and all that shit. But the R&B gets supported through these cities as far as monetarily putting the sound out. So No, I don't mean the white man. I mean what I mean. I read the goddamn. I wrote the motherfucking title. How you gonna tell me what I mean? And I wrote the title. No, I mean where Atlanta killed off R&B. You know, black people can say no, right? All right, back to what we're talking about. So, when it comes down to it, when you're talking about R&B, when it gets developed, and as we get through the 80s and the 90s, for those of you who want to know a more well-rounded discussion on the overall destruction of R&B, go back here on my Mixcloud channel, go on Spotify, YouTube. I did like a 3 or 4 part series on the destruction of R&B. And I talked about how it got destroyed overall. Those videos will give you more of a bird's eye view. And it's telling you, those videos are talking about the white paper report and the Harvard study and a lot of the technology that went on behind the scenes to destroy R&B. This show is more focused on where we, as black artists, took the bait and pushed this bullshit out. That's what this discussion is about. I have other videos that are more broad-based. But today we talking about Atlanta. And again, if you don't like it, kiss my ass. That felt good to say. Ugh, that felt good. So, when it come down to it, so let's fast forward. If you want to go to my Destruction of R&B series, you can get a breakdown of how R&B was defunded through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. That's a whole different broadcast. So when we get to the 90s, this is why I say Atlanta is where R&B was killed off. Because, yes, overall, music was devolved in the 90s. But let's go back to the 90s. Even though the industry, the white supremacists defunded R&B, they started to make the decisions to take the budgets out of R&B and put them over in hip hop and put them in other areas. Yes, that happened. But when we get to the 90s, something we got to look at. R&B was still live. When I say R&B started to die, my point of view is coming from the point of view of the live instrumentation being taken out of our sound. When that live instrumentation got taken out, that effectively killed R&B. Because the magic in R&B is the symphonic movement of the music combined with the lyrics. When R&B gets to Atlanta, New York started this shit with Def Jam, with what they were doing with Mary J. Blige, and then what Bad Boy is doing, Faith. New York started giving R&B this 4-bar loop, this 2-bar loop, like hip hop, where the whole song is just a 2-bar loop. No bridge, no chord changes, no chord progressions, just somebody singing over a 2-bar loop. That started in New York. But New York also had Electric Lady Studios, where Erykah Badu and that Soulquarian sound was getting together by way of Philadelphia and Dallas. So in the 90s, while the live instrumentation was being pulled out of New York and then later on shifting down to Atlanta, you still had Philadelphia, Jill Scott, Music Soul Child, Anthony Hamilton, giving us the pure, authentic live R&B sound. In the 90s, you still had Minneapolis, Mint Condition. Those guys still giving us the band sound. You had the Roots. Out of Chicago, you still had live music getting played. Out of Dallas, you had Erykah Badu and what she had going on. You know, RC and the Grits. Out of LA, LA has always kept the live music tradition. LA has been the place most responsible for keeping live music within R&B. And you get that through the 1500 or nothing. Hell, LA kept the live instrumentation in hip hop. You go back and listen to that Death Row, that's a band playing, nigga. Yeah, you have the beats, but there's a band playing behind that. But when you get to Atlanta, in the early 90s, it was still pure. You know, that early Tony Braxton, that early Escape, that Whip Appeal area by Babyface, that's some dope ass Atlanta music. Atlanta didn't come into the door half stepping. When the scene started to shift more down to Atlanta, they busted through the door with some really good music. What happened as the 90s progressed, you saw the musicality get taken out more and more. And as the music scene shifted to Atlanta in the late 90s and the early 2000s, away from LA, away from Chicago, away from the Philly area, and get more focused in Atlanta, the bands were gone. When I look at other cities, yes, they had this new 2-bar loop sound in R&B. When the 90s came, everybody was doing that. But most centers of music around America, Detroit, that remember Kim dropped in the 2000s, you always had a strong element of live instrumentation that even though the mainstream did their best to kill off, you always had strong epicenters of live instrumentation and orchestration. Except for in Atlanta. And that's why I say Atlanta is where R&B was killed. And I'm looking in the chat room right now. Watch everybody, just pay attention, chat room. I literally said R&B came through strong, and Atlanta came through strong in the early 90s. So watch the examples people give in the chat room. They're going to talk about Organized Noise, early 90s. They're going to talk about the Dungeon Family, great music, early 90s. If you give me examples of musicality being within the music out of Atlanta, we talking about people that came through the door before 94. Give me somebody who busted through the door in the last 10 years out of Atlanta that's giving us music. I'm saying music, not a beat, not a sample, not a loop. Atlanta has been the epicenter of music for like 20 years now. I'll give you a motherfucking decade. Give me somebody. Give me more than 3. Don't give me Organized Noise. I was 10 when they came out, nigga. I got great chin hairs now. Give me somebody now. That's what I mean. I want to have these kind of discussions. And another thing, I don't want to hear nobody talking about record sales. Y'all don't even know how the record industry worked in the 60s. You can't compare 50s and 60s record sales with today. In the 60s, let's go do a little bit of history. In the 50s and 60s, albums didn't really become a thing until you get to the late 60s, really early 70s, because that's when the cost of production and printing and pressing came out. And that's also when the technology advances to where you can get those 33 and a third albums. In the 60s, long form albums, it was a lot to do. So the 60s was about singles. They pumped out singles. Singles was the thing, 45s, because that's all the technology called for. So when you're dealing with music in the 60s, you're not going to have huge selling albums outside of like James Brown Live in 63. That sold like 3 million albums. You don't get too many big selling albums in the 60s because black labels could not afford to put out albums. They put out singles. So you got to understand this. Music is always, like throughout the history of music here in America, the different genres of all different cities throughout America have always held a time and a place in our music. And what we have is a consistency throughout the country until the last 15 years in Atlanta. You had the Stax sound out of Memphis, Isaac Hayes and Porter, Live Soul. You got the Chicago Chess Records sound, VJ Records out of Chicago. Curtis Mayfield's label was in Chicago, Detroit. Even to this day, when you look at the music that's being put out there, New Orleans is still putting out live bands. They Tanking the Bangers. They out of New Orleans. Thank you, New Orleans, for tanking the bangers. You know, black people are still putting out live bands. Catalyst here in LA out of Inglewood. I mean, we can go down the list. There's this band, I keep forgetting their name. They're out of New York. They had a dope ass album that came out a couple years ago. And I keep drawing a blank to their name. And if I can find it, I listen to them all the time, but I'm so dyslexic with their name. I mean, when you have all throughout the country, you have these bands. And this is what I say. Does Atlanta have some live bands? Yes. But here's what I got to say to that. Y'all not supporting them. Where y'all at? What band have y'all pushed out of Atlanta and made world famous? What band? You had the Kendrick family soul, they out of Atlanta. Y'all like, they don't exist. They have that, they don't even use live bands, but at least they use a live sound. The Kendrick family, they out of Atlanta. Y'all don't push them niggas the way New Orleans pushed Tank and the Bangers. Y'all giving us that bullshit. Y'all pushing trap. Y'all pushing this soulless level of R&B. I love R&B more than I love any fucking city. So if this hurts your feelings, I don't care. I want my music back. And part of my music comes with music. Atlanta is where that trap sound became big. That's where I call it my Black American music tree. I call it Trap and B, Hip Hop and B. The whole hip hop sound fused over R&B. And what do we get now out of the music that Atlanta pushes, that they make? I'm talking about the music that y'all make popular. Doot 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 doot. When that song Yeah dropped by Usher, and y'all niggas made that popular. I remember I was 20 when Yeah dropped. That song was made for me. That was made for my generation. I wasn't an old nigga. I was like 19, 20 when that song dropped. That song was made for my generation. And I remember when it dropped, I was like, R&B's dead. They didn't have to bring in a string arrangement. There no horns. They said, fuck the strings. Fuck the horns. No bridge. Just a skeleton of a beat. Just a little skeleton. And then, just when that whole Confessions was a huge album. And I'm not saying it was a bad album. It was good music production as far as what it's worth. But the layers of execution, the sonic feeling of traditional R&B just wasn't there. I feel it in body, there's somebody who make you change your ways, like changing with your crew. Man, that song had no feeling. And that shit hit big. I'm like, wow. Now, all it takes is for someone to sing pretty good over a track with no soul. Just no soul. No soul. Good music, good writing. I think the overall music itself, the way they put it together was nice. But just the level of effort put into the music. That's where I say Atlanta is where R&B was killed. When the center of the sound of R&B got to Atlanta, the effort to make a production, not there. Plenty of good beats. Plenty of dope, catchy hooks. But sonically, musically, what is it giving us? A cool little beat? And of course, the music is going to sell a lot. McDonald's is always going to outsell Mastro's. If you see, it's nothing. If you come to me, that's another person. I know when I know when I'm realizing I'm talking to someone disconnected from our musical cultural tradition. Because musically, culturally, we don't care about sales. You know why? First off, we know the white supremacists, they got their fingers on the lever anyway. We don't really know what the fuck the real sales is. Second of all, we inherently understand as a people, when it becomes mainstream, when too many of them folks like it, that's how you know it's watered down. Thriller outsold Off the Wall. Both albums are great, but Thriller outsold Off the Wall because Thriller was a more watered down version than Off the Wall. Authentic Black American funk, they can't fuck with. If everybody in the world is digging it, that means the soul is gone. Thank you for proving my point. Talking about record sales. Duh, nigga. Of course it's going to sell more because it's simple. And that's what I mean. When the scene got to Atlanta, our sound got so dumbed down, anybody could sing along with it. Under my umbrella, Ella, 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 eh, eh. You ain't supposed to be able to sing every word in R&B. You can't get a Shaka Khan note, nigga. R&B is supposed to be special for the talented few that can do it, that can pull it off. It's a special form of music. It's live orchestration and instrumentation. I take this personal. I look at when my father-in-law, Mr. James Carmichael, put together a song, he didn't go into the studio and say, do-do-do, do-do, do-do, do-do. Okay, here's a hit. No. When he composed All Night Long for Lionel Richie, it took him over 4 months to get that song put together. He used dozens, and I mean close to 100, if not more, musicians. Because you got to get those strings to get that life into the music. You got to get the vocals, the horns. You got to put some fucking effort into it. That's what R&B is. When it got to Atlanta, they was like, oh, you got 2 bars of a loop? Oh, you got somebody that can sing? Oh, she can't sing? Oh, fuck it, we got auto-tune. R&B song, hit. You defending that? Do you really love music or no? You defending that? Let me tell you why I'm having this important. Let me tell you why I'm having this important conversation. Let's go a little bit deeper. Music is a healing source. It's there for us to heal us physically, to heal us psychically and to heal us emotionally. Let me break that down. This is why live instrumentation is so important. And again, this is what I love. This is what love. Did I ever say Atlanta don't have talent? No, Atlanta got plenty of talent. But Atlanta is shortchanging us on the effort. They throwing some shit together and forcing it out there and saying that's a hit. It's just done. We need effort back into our music. Effort. And if you ain't good enough and if you can't play an instrument, and if you ain't got time to put the effort in it, go drive a fucking bus. I come from the church. I played the drums in church for over 20 years. Played the drums all throughout here in LA for a good 10 plus years. I'm back on it now. I hold R&B and I hold music to the church standard. Either you're going to hit the note, you're going to find a way to hit the note, or you're going to get the fuck off my stage. That's where I come from. When I played the drums, I will be 15 years old. I had a motherfucking final S school that coming Friday. But shit, Sunday we got this song coming up, and if I fuck up this, if I got this intro, that's how some church intros can be. And as a drummer, I gotta get that. It ain't no excuse saying, well, man, that intro was hard. No, nigga. You better fucking nail that intro. That's what the standard of our music. And we need to get that standard back. We need to go back to being a people of fucking standards. Oh, no, that song sound good. Ooh, that song sold 100 million records. So? McDonald's sold 100 million cheeseburgers yesterday too. What the fuck that mean? So here's what R&B is. Here's what music is. Music is a sonic interpretation of life. Okay? Music is a sonic interpretation of life. Music is supposed to mimic the 4 elements that make up life: earth, air, water, fire. What's the earth? The earth is the drums. The live drums. That's the earth. Let me give y'all an example. Let me flex real quick. Let me pull up my drum set. The earth is the live drums. That lays the foundation of the sound. The bass guitar. That's the earth. They lay the foundation for the rhythm of the sound. Everything. Hey, baby. Love you. Hey, my wife is home. Hey, the party gets started now. I love when my wife comes home. See, this is what it takes. When I'm in the studio, I'm not sitting here in my fucking computer twiddly diddly deeing around. No, nigga. I'm here with it. This costs me a lot of money. But when I put together some music, this is where I am with it. This ain't cheap. This is effort. I don't talk about it, I be about it. The drums of the earth. That kick you see right there, that's the foundation of all the sound. That snare. Ask yourself, what is a snare? Rattlesnake. What is the rattlesnake indigenous to? America, god damn it. This is the Black American sound. This is our tradition. What I'm talking about, Atlanta, is preserving our cultural tradition. We as black people invented this shit. We the masters of this shit. And we giving it away trying to be lazy with our fucking music. The kick drum. That sets the foundation for the sound. It tells you what direction the music is going to go in. It tells the dancer which directions to sway your hips. Am I going to play a straight 2-4 on the kick? Or am I going to syncopate the kick? This is the foundation of our sound. My drum set is so beautiful, don't you agree? And this ain't even with my rack. This is the foundation of our sound, right here. The earth. The snare on the 2 and the 4 keeps you in time. The cymbals, that's the weather, the thunder, the lightning, comes from the cymbals. The water element comes from the cymbals. The earth element comes from the kick. This is our sound. We invented it. It didn't exist in Africa. It didn't exist in India, China, Europe. This was invented right here in North America. And this is the base and the nucleus of our sound. It's the earth element. Then you get into the base. Earth. The foundation of the sound. What's the water element? The piano. The keys. Twinkling twines. It's like, sounds like rain, don't it? The keys give us the water element. What's the air element? The singing, the wind, the live horns. That's air. What's the fire? The fire can also be them horns. It's the guitar. And in those elements, we create music. Music is never supposed to be perfect. See, when you start and there's nothing wrong with using these instruments. There's nothing. I'm not saying don't use these innovations. What I'm saying is, if you want to do R&B right, if you want to do music right, you got to put those in its place, but you can't forget the real live shit. And somewhere along the way, Atlanta forgot the real live shit. Philadelphia never forgot. Detroit hasn't forgotten. LA definitely ain't forgot. New Orleans hasn't forgotten. Dallas hasn't forgotten. I think Atlanta has. DC ain't forgotten. Even though in DC y'all play that God-wretched go-go music. I cannot stand go-go music. But at least you niggas still employ go-go bands. People, Washington, D.C., I was in D.C. D.C. is the place where go-go bands can get work. Because D.C. is a place that appreciates live music. Live music hasn't died all across the country, but it's an issue in Atlanta. See, when it come down to it, again, somebody said, we do live music in Atlanta. I'm off base. I didn't say you don't. I said, where are you pushing it? Atlanta is the center of where all the fucking labels are right now. Why ain't y'all putting it out there for the rest of us? That's the problem. Fuck. Is it that hard to goddamn comprehend? Why ain't y'all giving us that shit? Why is everything y'all promoting, pushing to the world this plastic bullshit nonsense? Man, why is it the last time you can give me a musical something out of Atlanta, you talking about organized noise? God damn it, Tupac was alive and organized noise was around. Tupac wasn't even a thug yet. Tupac was still dancing for Digital Underground when Organized came out. Give me something newer. And if you think I'm rambling, I got your attention, nigga. I win. Back to what we talking about. So, R&B needs those elements to thrive. And when we as Black Americans hold our music to that standard, nobody can touch us. These people that we got on the radio and R&B now wouldn't exist if we still held our music to the church standard. No, bitch, hit that note. I'm not going to give you auto-tune. And matter of fact, music ain't supposed to be perfect. All this putting it on a machine, then quantizing it, making it. Atlanta music sound like white folks music. Can we tell the truth? I don't know the difference between Atlanta music and white folks R&B. Hell, motherfucking Hall & Oates got more soul than anything that came out of Atlanta in the last 15 years. Come on now, Sarah Smile? Name one song out of Atlanta that got more soul than Sarah Smile. Smile, Sarah. Come on. Pfft. You gonna let them white boys dust y'all? Let's talk turkey, nigga. Y'all talking about something? It's good R&B bands coming out. Okay. Which one did y'all push to the forefront? See, here in Atlanta, you right, Fetty TV, it's chocolate covered white music. See, here in LA, that's right, Jeff. Oh, Jeff Brown in the building. Yeah. Reducing music to math is a crime. Hey, look at somebody say Atlanta gave that. Look what I say. I keep getting proved right. Every time they bring me Atlanta, they excuse me, shit. I got so excited. Every time they come to Atlanta, what are they gonna say? They're gonna give you somebody that came out 30 years ago. TLC and Escape. Yes, nigga. You know how I was in middle school when TLC came out, bruh? I got grays now, nigga. I got grays. Give me somebody that came out before the grays. Don't give me somebody that came out before my nuts dropped. Hell yeah, Atlanta gave us the SOS band. What the fuck happened to y'all? SOS band is one of the greatest bands ever. Baby, they can do it. Take your time, do it right. You can do it, baby. What the fuck happened? What the fuck happened? So when the epicenter got to Atlanta, the musicality got taken. And that's the crux of my point. When R&B got centered in Atlanta, the musicality got all the way taken out with no balance. No balance. Yes, there are local bands in Atlanta. Who signed them? Yes, the church scene in Atlanta, all them dope ass, all them mega churches in Atlanta, all them good ass choirs in Atlanta. Atlanta ain't got no shortage of dope ass musical choir directors. Why ain't none of them get signed to an R&B contract to put some music and put R&B out right the way it should be done? See, part of the reason why the live music tradition stayed here in LA, because when Death Row was going on, Death Row was recording at Solar Studios, Dick Griffey. Solar Studios, The Whispers, Lakeside, Rolls Royce out of the 70s. When you look at the early Death Row, or that early Snoop, Doggy Dog, that's one of the Mary Jane girls singing on Snoop Dogg on What's My Name. Dr. Dre brought in Roger Troutman for California Love. Steve Arrington talked about how openly on interviews how it was the West Coast that extended his career. It was Snoop Dogg that gave Charlie Wilson a second half to his career. Charlie Wilson was homeless in the 90s. But when Rhythm and Gangsta came out, Snoop gave that man a job and relaunched his career. Snoop is the person that gave jobs to Terrace Martin. When Terrace Martin, Kamasi Washington, Thundercat, that whole West Coast get down, those are the leaders of jazz across the world now. The top jazz acts come out of LA, along with Christian Scott out of New Orleans and a few others, and Robert Glasper out of Houston. But jazz is really heavy here in LA. Kamasi Washington. When those guys, Kamasi, Terrace Martin, when they did their own independent albums, they were able to fund and record their own albums because they were playing the saxophone for Snoop on tour. Snoop has done so much for the musicians here in LA to put money in their pocket. DJ Quick, Dr. Dre, and what he's doing with Anderson .Paak, the hip hop vets, not only Snoop and Death Row. Remember, if you go back and watch the Unsung for the Dramatics, it was the Dramatics that said that basically their touring career had died out until Doggy Dog World came out by Snoop. The Dramatics is still touring till this day, 30 years after Doggy Style, because of that song that they did. So when LA got the baton, even on the hip hop side of the game, they extended offers to the musicians. Even Too Short. When Too Short got to Atlanta, he was doing live music. Go back and listen to the Cocktails album. Too Short, out of LA, by way of Oakland. When he went to Atlanta back in 96, he dropped an album named Cocktails. These are the tales, the freaky tales. These are the tales that I tell so well. You don't like my dirty raps, you can go to hell. But he got a song on that album called Sample the Funk. That whole Cocktails album got some dope ass live instrumentation. Thank you, Too Short. Yes, the white supremacists did what they did. Yes, the white supremacists do what they do. Yes, they defunded our music. Yes, they got their grubby, chompy little hands on our music. But when I look across the board, across the table, I see other cities that black music, that R&B is based in. They're still putting some sort of effort to, through their mainstream channels, through their big dogs, push a live sound. Where are the Atlanta big dogs putting on those local young bands? For those of you niggas that's in my chat room saying, Atlanta got all kind of bands. All right, cool. How many jobs did T.I. give them? How many jobs did you go down the list? It's a lot of niggas out of Atlanta. How many jobs did those local bands in Atlanta get from the mainstream artists? See, here in LA, our best of the best pulled up art. Dr. Dre pulled up Anderson .Paak. Snoop pulled up the West Coast Get Down. Kendrick on To Pimp a Butterfly had them same guys, had Robert Glasper on it. Our best, Nipsey worked with Terrace Martin. Our best of our best pull up the obscure live instrumentation guys. Where is that tradition in Atlanta? That's all I'm saying. There's a tradition that's gotten broken since R&B got to Atlanta that we need to reattach. And going around saying, well, TLC came out back in the 90s. Nigga, Nelson Mandela was still in jail when half these niggas y'all talking about came out. I see somebody with I got somebody with the Georgia Post here mad. He said, go back to telling jokes. Yeah, the joke is Atlanta's music. That's the joke, goddammit. The joke is you niggas thinking y'all putting out R&B. That's the joke. The joke is y'all think y'all putting out music. Ha 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 ha. Y'all giving us what? Y'all, what's the difference between the level of soul y'all giving us and white folks? Appreciate the Cash App, Dr. Goldstein. Somebody said, "What stop?" Quat, I know you're a faithful listener. You said, what's stopping LA and Philly from pushing R&B? I've literally just named like a lot of R&B people that LA's pushing. I literally talked about, I just spent the last 10 minutes. Look, y'all, if y'all not gonna listen to what I'm saying, I can only say what I say. If y'all pick it up, I appreciate you, bro, but gotta listen. Gotta listen. I gave you two sides of it. I talked about how out of LA, careers of people like the Dramatics, Roger Troutman, Charlie Wilson were extended because when they were coming up, they pulled back those 70s greats. Steve Arrington talks about this. And I talked about how once Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and all those guys got to the top, they pulled up Jarris Mosey. They pulled up Terrace Martin, Anderson .Paak, Kamasi Washington, Terrace Martin, Ryan Porter. Look these names up. These guys are at the top of jazz now. The reason why Kamasi Washington can tour the world. Kamasi Washington last summer sold out the Hollywood Bowl. Hollywood Bowl see 18,000 people playing jazz. He was able to position himself to record his own music because of the money he was making off the gigs Snoop, Dre, and the West Coast hip-hop scene was throwing him. The West Coast hip-hop scene is the reason why the West Coast jazz scene is thriving now. You got Ali Shaheed Muhammad from the Tribe Called Quest. Him and Adrian Young got a whole series called Jazz is Dead. Look it up. Ali Shaheed Muhammad from A Tribe Called Quest and Adrian Young. They got a studio here in LA. They just released the album recently with Lonnie Liston Smith. They do a good job of pulling up a lot of older acts and doing new music with them. They did a dope album with Roy Ayers like 2 years ago. They just did an album with Lonnie Liston Smith that just dropped. They use live instrumentation, orchestration. It's thriving. So all I'm saying is this. It's time for Atlanta to step up. And it's time for you lame ass niggas to stop giving excuses. We need our music back. We need live instrumentation back. We need string arrangements and horns. We need bridges, chord progressions, key changes. We need all that back. A 2-bar trap loop. I'm telling y'all right now. And I'm telling you, this is pre-warning for the Atlanta sound. The reason why y'all need to get back into the music and the instrumentation is AI about to take you niggas out. If you think sampling a 2-bar loop and auto-tuning is going to be a sustainable way to make music in 5 years, you're fucking yourself. AI is going to sample and make auto-tune music better than any of you niggas. So it's time you pick up a fucking instrument and learn how to create music from source. That's the only way you're going to stay ahead of AI. That's the only way you're going to stay ahead of AI is by picking up a fucking instrument. And if you call yourself a singer, you're going to have to sing. Not who, then, okay, I'll hit that button to correct the note. This is how singing is out of Atlanta. You got somebody up there missing every note. Oh, you got Rihanna. And then the producer's like, that's fine. We're just going to turn one of these knobs here. Yeah, that'll work. Oh, you don't need to do another take. We're going to go ahead and fix that right now. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and fix that. Yeah. As a matter of fact, could you sing it one more time, just a little louder, because I don't want any feedback. Yeah, sing it. Ooh. Oh, damn. The engineer in there like, God damn, this bitch can't sing. Oh, shit. And no, fine. No, you're good. I'm not saying anything. Oh, God. Here we go. We going. That's how you niggas do music out of Atlanta. And let me tell you something. AI is about to take all you niggas out. Any nigga doing this, AI is about to take all that shit out. They gonna do it better than any of you niggas. You better pick up a guitar. You better pick up a motherfucking trumpet, nigga. Your ass better pick up a nigga, at least pick up a triangle. Pick up some congos, nigga, and some xylophones, nigga. You better pick up something. So that's my point. That's how Atlanta killed R&B. It took R&B from being an extremely complex, intelligent. I appreciate the Cash App, Sean. Appreciate the Cash App. So y'all can hit me on the Cash App, $ Dwann Brown. Hit me on the Cash App. Hit me on the Cash App. So I'm getting a lot of people hitting thumbs down. You niggas is mad, but as mad as y'all are, y'all can't say shit about it. Only thing you gonna say is organized noise, TLC, escape, and I'm just gonna be like, okay, give me somebody this century, and you gonna be like, man, fuck you. My name is Chuck, and I don't give a fuck. So, when it comes down to it, you're right. I said Kendrick family's from Atlanta. They from Philly. They from Philly. I said they are from Philly. I said Atlanta. I'm sorry. That was a dyslexic moment, y'all. I said Kendrick family is from Atlanta. They're from Philly. They live in Atlanta. They're from Philly. So, R&B is our sound. It's a sound that heals us. Martin Luther King said that in his last few days, in the last few years living, he talked openly about how the music of Aretha Franklin would give him just enough to power through to the next day. There's always a sound and a militancy and a message in our music. When we go deeper than the live instrumentation, can we name a monumental rhythm and blues song cut out of R&B, out of Atlanta, in the last century? Since this whole century. Because R&B has a tradition of having some sort of message behind it also. Can you guys give me a hit out of Atlanta over the last 20 years that spoke to the Black American social condition? Can we? See, what's happening in the chat room is I got people doing straw arguments. And straw arguments, for those of you familiar with rhetoric, is something that people throw in when they don't have anything to say to your point. They say, well, the South got HBCU bands. Okay. Show me the big time Atlanta artists that put some of those musicians on. Just show me. We don't need to argue. The South got plenty of dope bands. LSU band, not LSU, the Grambling band, the Southern band, great. And out of those bands come some really dope musicians. Now show me the place in Atlanta, since they're at the center of music, that's cultivating those artists to be house musicians. Is there a place that those musicians can go to get work consistently? That's what I'm talking about. The tradition has gotten broken. Black American music has a tradition of, as the younger musicians come, the older musicians producing them and molding them and shaping their careers. And let me give you an example. When Quincy Jones came up, he was a trumpet player. From being a trumpet player, he went to writing arrangements for, first off, he went to music school to learn how to write arrangements. Atlanta, that can help. Maybe go to music school and learn how to write some arrangements. Well, anyway, he learned how to write arrangements. Then he became the arranger for Count Basie. And then Count Basie molded Quincy Jones in from just being a trumpet player to somebody who can arrange and mold music. And through the Count Basie School of Music, Quincy Jones was able to grow and become a producer and produce his own string of music through the 60s and the 70s. So by the time he got to Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones was the top. He took all of those lessons that he learned from Count Basie, the swing, the way to layer music, and then he brought up these younger musicians, Greg Fillinganes, Joe Sample, and these other guys coming up, and really taught them how to shape and rap and warp music. Yes, they stopped teaching music in schools, but Black Americans never really depended on the schools to teach us music. We didn't. Most of our musicians come from the church. Most of our music, they weren't even in the South. They didn't have, like, most of those musicians out of the South in the blues musicians, they were out of school they barely went past the third grade. Music and instrument is something that you choose to pick up. And our economic situations have never stopped us from learning instruments. Never. We've always been poor in this country. Comes down to dedication. What do you want? How serious do you take the music? How serious do you take the music? Ali Shaheed Muhammad said that. I saw it when I went to go about 2 months ago. I went to go to a listening party here in LA. and it was a discussion between on the LA jazz scene. And Ali Shaheed Muhammad told a story how when he was with Tribe, they wanted him to cut an album with Gil Scott-Heron. And ultimately, I don't want to butcher his story. Ultimately, Gil Scott-Heron ended up not coming down to the studio because he's like, I'm not going about to work with some hip hop guy basically who don't understand chord progression. And Ali Shaheed Muhammad, basically, to summarize his story, he didn't take it personal. He took that as, okay, I need to go and learn and study music. So he went back into school and he learned and studied music theory, chord progression, and he made his game better and sharper. And now he has a whole second half of his career producing a lot of dope R&B and jazz here in LA. See, with music, there's the people who are established have always reached down and brought in the babies, the young ones. When Herbie Hancock was on his way up, first Donald Byrd saw him, and then Miles Davis said, Herbie Hancock. He brought in Herbie Hancock, cultivated and molded Herbie Hancock. And as Herbie got into the 70s, Herbie molded his own sound and defined himself. To where now, when Herbie goes on, when I went to go see Herbie Hancock a couple years ago, he had Terrace Martin with him. When I went to go see him last year, he had this beautiful, beautiful flute player. Her name is Elena Penderhughes. Look her up. She's a beautiful, beautiful flutist. But Herbie Hancock had her. He had Justin Tyson on drums. He used Christian Scott on trumpet out of New Orleans. There's always been a tradition with our music to where the established people go and get the young ones and bring them up musically. Atlanta, y'all the center of music the last 20 years. The South is full of HBCUs. It's a lot of musicians down in the South. Who's pulling up the young drummers? What mainstream artist out of Atlanta is going and saying, let's go to this church and find the next dope background singer? The next great music arranger. Where is that system? Where is that tradition? It's time that we culturally bring that back. Because the young musicians coming up aren't going to put themselves on. They need the help of the people who are established to put them on. Thank you, Snoop Dogg, for putting on the people who now control jazz. Do we understand black people are now back in control of jazz? Because the vets help put them on. It's time we get back to our black standard of our music being done and executed at the highest level. Meaning, if you can't make it, get the fuck off this album. I'll bring somebody in who can. Oh, Jess, I appreciate the Cash App. It's time to get that back to that tradition. If you can't do it, we're going to bring in somebody who can. We don't need excuses. We need our music back. And get me here May 26th, Dallas, Texas. Get your tickets right now on DwannB.com/live. Get your tickets, God damn it. Get your tickets. Get your black ass tickets to, let me see here. Stand in line, get your ticket. I hope you will attend. Well, anyway, look at this. We're about to go over to mixcloud. And we're going to play some live music examples. We about to get in and play some music. But you go to dwannb.com/live and boom. We right there with it. They still haven't put in my information and they still got the wrong. Okay. Yeah. They gotta go back and fix my about, but get your tickets to see Black Jesus. This shit's about to be dope, y'all. It's about to be dope, yo. So what I need from y'all is to go to the description, click on Mixcloud, mixcloud.com/Dwann B. I gave y'all the verbal. I talked to y'all. Now we about to play some music. Everything that I talk about, we're gonna play sonically. Gonna show you different sounds and where R&B came from and the sound of R&B, the grandness of R&B, and how once the scene got centered in Atlanta, that grandiose sound went to a flat plane. So go on over right now to Mixcloud. We will be live on Mixcloud in about 5 to 10 minutes. Give me like 5 minutes. And we're going to be over on Mixcloud, all right? I really should say 30 minutes so I can go smoke a blunt. But I'm not going to smoke a blunt first. I'm going to go right on over to Mixcloud. So we about to go on over there so we can play some live music examples of what I'm talking about. But I said all I said to say to close out YouTube. I say what I say in love to Atlanta. Atlanta got talent. Atlanta got a lot of good things going for it. But we need the Atlanta music scene to reconnect to the tradition of Black America. And that is to cultivate young artists and to bring and give us music that feeds our soul. Not only sonically with the band, but also with the lyrics. We need you to look. You don't be telling me about all the money you got if you ain't giving me no protest music too. Don't talk to me about how fly you are if you can't play a fucking guitar. All right? With major love to Atlanta. Get y'all shit together. We need our music right. All right? So follow me on over to Mixcloud, and we are going to play some music. And we're going to keep talking, but we're about to get some music examples now. So y'all get ready. Yeah, now give me 15 minutes. Oh, yeah, I'm going to smoke a little bit of my blunt. 6:30 Pacific. 6:30 Pacific. That is, so whatever you are, at the bottom of the hour, we will be going live on Mixcloud. At the bottom of the motherfucking hour. And if you're watching this later, subscribe to my Mixcloud and catch up. Remember this, there are no perfect messengers, only perfect messages for those willing to pick up the game.